When is the best time to have coffee? Well, much as it might be the first thing that some of us reach for in the morning, first thing in the morning is not the best time, nor is it at lunchtime, and more obviously not after 5 o'clock. The best times are between 9:30 and 11:30 and 1:30 and 5 p.m. But 5 p.m. seems a little bit late for those of us who aren't very tolerant to caffeine, but I'll come to different types and metabolisms later. So why these particular times and not at first thing? Well, between 8 and 9:30 we have something called the cortisol peak, and cortisol is our wide awake, be alert hormone, and then there's another cortisol peak at lunchtime. So why does it matter having a coffee at the same time as that cortisol peak? Well, if you're looking for a boost, a kick from your coffee, having your coffee at that time of the cortisol peak will actually blunt the effects of that energy boost that you're after. And it is possible that you'll have an increased tolerance to that stimulant effect. Also, coffee is associated with raising the cortisol level, so if you combine that cortisol peak with a raise of caffeine and cortisol levels, you're looking at other health issues. So not only will you not get that buzz if you take your coffee first thing, it will also be detrimental to other systems that balance our health. But these hours are based around a normal riser and the harmonious habits that we form with light and dark around the circadian rhythms. But if you are a person of the night or doing military wake-ups or simply working late shifts, how does this make a difference to you? Sunlight is the initiator for these cortisol peaks. So if you live in a high latitude or much lower latitude and you're having those longer days and shorter nights or vice versa, these timings are going to be different for you. Also, if you wake up at 4 in the morning. But despite this, it's worth knowing that we all wake up with cortisol awakening response, and that's what gets us into that be alert, ready, steady, go mode. So once again, on awakening, there is an excretion of the stress hormone cortisol. So it's best to let that subside for about an hour or so before you go for your morning buzz with your coffee. So is coffee good for us? Coffee is a huge trade and it started in the Yemen over 500 years ago. The world loves it. It's real, it's fresh, so it must be okay, right? Well, actually, the wall of the liver doesn't like it much, and that's because if we keep bombarding it with coffee, it gets too much, and then it becomes more susceptible to cell damage, bacteria, and viruses. Your choice of coffee is a ritual and a pleasure, but caffeine is highly addictive. It's also found in chocolate and painkillers, as it is a pain reliever that stimulates the release of dopamine and beta endorphin. But it also blocks the receptors of adenosine, which influence pain signaling. It is something that we build up throughout the day that gives us the desire to sleep by evening time. So if we have a combination of the caffeine giving us a painkiller and keeping us awake, we're inviting this unwelcome cycle of, oh, I feel buzzy and good, and but I can't sleep. Some of us metabolize caffeine faster than others, well, as much as 3 times more, while the rest of us are feeling a little bit jittery and with a slightly raised blood pressure. So with these genetic differences and responses to caffeine, it's hard to say if coffee is actually really good for you or not at all. It just depends on you. And likewise, is it a pro-inflammatory or an anti-inflammatory? This is proven to vary from person to person. So this begs the question that I like to ask, does it make you fat or skinny? Whenever I've run group boot camps or detoxifications, coffee has been omitted. The thinking of this is so that the body can run at its natural speed and regenerate without any chemical influences. After all, coffee takes as long as 14 hours to get out of your system, so that's half of your day, more than half of your day, half of your life if you drink a lot of coffee, with excess stimulant running around you. On observation with these groups, everyone fares better without the coffee. Now, they might not feel that for the first 5 days, as coffee detoxification is really quite harsh, but after those first few days, their energy returns like nothing before, as does their sleep. It's also noticeable that fat loss is easier. Now, that's because when you have coffee, cortisol is released, and normally we use cortisol in life to run away, to flee, to fight, to flight, whatever it is. But if you just sit there devouring your coffee, that energy is not reabsorbed, but it lays down as fat. So unless there are varying genetic responses to cortisol and fat storage, caffeine over time will reduce the insulin resistance to the body, and then blood sugars will be stored as fat. So if you feel like you're getting a bit of a poochy belly, in fact even a higher Pucci-Bellin, it's just not you, consider reducing or even ditching coffee for about 3 weeks and see the differences that it will make. And yes, you will get a headache. You'll also discover a fresher complexion and you'll look a lot younger. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope that it's helped you understand the best time to have your coffee during the day and some other things about coffee too. Bye, and I hope to see you in my next video.